Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we're gonna talk about productivity, what is productivity and how a business can improve the productivity. So productivity is basically the amount of output produced against the inputs used to produce. Basically it's a measure of efficiency. So you can calculate productivity by output divided by time period or the output divided by number of employees. So how much output is produced against what was the input, the basic ratio, that was efficiency. So it's a measure of how much efficient a business is. So how to improve productivity? Improving productivity generally means that you are trying to increase your efficiency. So how can you do that? There are a lot of methods. We're going to talk about that. Raising skill levels of employees through improved training, more likely to be costly in the short term, but it will improve the production as skilled employees would be able to carry out their job in a shorter period of time, hence increasing the productivity. So increasing the skill levels is of course one of the ways to improve productivity, as if your employees are more skilled, they are more trained, they will be able to carry out the task more quickly, more efficiently, they'll use less time, and the overall the production will increase. You will be able to produce more in less time and a better quality, perhaps. But it improving is not too easy. Training is costly, so you have to consider that as well, that it will be costly in the short term, but overall if employees stay skilled, they stay in your business, and your productivity will increase gradually, your profits will also increase. Improve employee motivation to increase their performance and hence increase their productivity. Motivated employees are likely to put in more effort. So if you are, but both of these points, do keep in mind that they are both for labor intensive businesses where you have more labor. So if your employee motivation, if you can increase your motivation in your employees, we have discussed that in the chapter 2, unit 2, chapter 2, motivation, that increasing employee motivation, like, it greatly influences their productivity, how much work they are able to do. So motivated, when their employees are motivated, they are likely to put in more effort. And how can that be achieved? It can be achieved through both financial and non-financial rewards. However, it should decrease unit cost without much increase in labor pay. In order to improve your productivity, the whole financial and non-financial rewards both should decrease unit cost without much increase in labor pay, because when you are trying to use financial rewards, it will likely increase your costs, and non-financial rewards, of course, they all have their own pros and cons, and that we have discussed that in the motivation chapter. So you can reference to any of that when you are answering such questions about how to improve productivity. Any one particular method that you can, team working could be used for non-financial rewards to improve motivation, but it's not too suitable. It might not be suitable in all situations, and team working might mean that if a team of some people are not team workers and some slack off at work. So you have to discuss both the pros and cons when you are told to discuss. When you're told to analyze the advantages, you need to focus more on advantages and discuss a little more bit of side effect. Like over here, I've said that it should decrease unit cost without much increase in pay. If the business is not able to carry out this work, then that means they are putting in more cost in order to get more profit input. That, like, they are not being more efficient. They are just, overall there is no net increase in efficiency. So it's not too much good of a method if you are not able to decrease your unit cost. Invest in more technically advanced machines and equipment. This is likely to increase productivity as a greater number of units are produced in less time. However, it can be beneficial in the long run as fewer employees are required, so overall less labor cost is there. The initial capital required for purchasing machines will be high, but they require few maintenance costs as opposed to high wages for labor. So the whole point behind this paragraph is that you can switch to capital intensive business from a labor intensive business. You can invest more in capitals, machineries, technological advanced machines, equipment. Machines are they can work fast, they can work more accurate, and they will be able, they are expensive. The initial cost for purchasing those machineries will be expensive and setting them up, but overall in the long run they don't require much maintenance cost. There are very few or rare maintenance costs, monthly you can say, or once in 2 months perhaps, or weekly also, but it's not too high. But wages for labor will be high if some countries where labor cost is increasing. The minimum labor cost, labor pay, wage required by government, that the government has set up, is sometimes high. And if you're trying to increase your productivity, that means you want your workers to work more. And if they work more, then they are likely to ask you for an increase in pay. So in this method, it's appropriate, it's very useful. If in the long run, as fewer employees will be required, so you will have less labor cost. And machines, yes, they have a high initial setup cost, but overall in the long run, they will have few maintenance costs as opposed to the high wages for labor. Then we have, you can use more efficient management of resources. That means you got a better efficient management is required. Like you can purchasing correct and cheaper raw materials while maintaining the quality of production. Sometimes when you go for cheaper raw materials, that means your quality is being sacrificed, so you have to look after that as well. So you have to make a compromise in that trying to be more efficient as well as effective. Proper maintenance schedule for machines and proper management of stock. All these could be an example of efficient management of resources. You are using your resources correctly, land, labor, capital. Reduce wastage. How can you reduce wastage? It can be done through efficient inventory control, like JIT method. JIT is just in time inventory method. We're going to talk about that in the later part of the chapter. This is a third chapter of operations management, which is inventory control. So we're going to talk about have a detailed discussion about JIT in that particular chapter. So over here, I can just give you a brief overview of what JIT is. JIT just generally involves you to just-in-time inventory method, that when customer places an order to you, only then you ask the supplier. Then you place the order to supplier, so that you get the supplies only after you have received an order. What's the benefits of this is that it prevents stocked goods from becoming outdated or obsolete, as well as to reduce warehousing cost and the opportunity cost attached with stocks. However, you also have to discuss the other side of that in order to have JIT, you need to have good relationships with the supplier. You need a flexible and fast, efficient workforce that can work fast and cater to the needs fast. And you should have good reputation so that your customers aren't dissatisfied with the time duration that it takes from ordering to letting them, first they order you, then you order the supplier, then the supplier gives you those stocks, then you process those stocks, and then you give it to there's a lot of time involved in that. So the customers, you need to have a good quality and brand reputation to make this successful. Finally, we've discussed all the methods for improving productivity. Okay, don't confuse it with production. Production is about how much you are able to produce. It is just about the output, but productivity is about the ratio of the measure of output to input, like how much output you are able to produce with how much input. So it's just a measure of efficiency, how much efficient a business is. So do keep in mind when you are discussing about productivity that even if you try to improve productivity, employees may not welcome efforts to increase productivity. Also, increasing productivity may lead to a fall in quality if production is rushed. When you say employees are not, because employees might be overworked and they might not have a good work-life balance. If you are increasing productivity, they might require high wages, more wages. Generally, when you're trying to use productivity, you're trying to get the work done as soon as possible, ASAP, and because of that, your production is rushed, due to which there is a fall in quality. So you have to keep that in mind as well, to look over these shortcomings and try to somehow get over these. Now, before ending today's lecture, we're going to talk about one topic that was also associated in the chapter. This is the role of operations department in value addition. Now, value addition was discussed back in chapter 1 about what value addition was, and we also had a little discussion about it in unit 3, I believe. Now, what was value addition? Value addition was the difference between the selling price and the raw materials. Operations management involves all the stages of the transformation process, and therefore is directly involved in the process of creating value. So transformation process was converting input to output. So since operations management is involved in all the stages of transformation process, it means it is also direct involved in process of creating value. Transformation, you are just adding value to the product in the transformation process. So that's why operations management is also linked with creating value. The more efficient the operations process, the more value it adds, like use of few or less resources for the output produced. Marketing Also, we have discussed that it is also a vital part of value addition. Now, how is marketing and operations related? Marketing is responsible for identifying the needs for customers. This department must work with operations to find the best way of fulfilling these needs whole at the same time meeting the business objectives. So you want to, marketing identifies the needs of customer, operations try to work the best production method possible to fulfill these needs while meeting the business objectives. Marketing will identify the benefits customer want and the prices they are willing to pay. Operations must see if it can meet those targets at an appropriate cost. So that's all about today, and thanks for watching. Allah Hafiz.